Hi. So this is part of the ongoing series where I'm talking about the year I spent at Musicians Institute back in the fall of '86 to fall of '87. Today I'm going to talk about what for me was the hardest class. And they had a bunch of different classes there, style classes, scale, theory, ear training, sight reading, etc. But the second half of the year was more focused on the more advanced stuff, less memorizing stuff, and more stuff like analyzing music and more difficult style classes like chord melody, which was a tough one for me too because I really didn't have a jazz background when I got there, even though the Musicians Institute started out, was written, the original curriculum by a jazz player, Howard Roberts. So it had a lot of jazz people going there, even though you had a lot of people like Paul Gilbert and Jennifer Batten and stuff that were more rock and metal players that went through the school because it gave you a good foundation. Anyways, the one that gave me the hardest time was a jazz one, and it was called Super Chops. It was written by Howard Robertson. It's based upon the book by the same name, which this book unfortunately is out of print, but you can actually download the PDFs of it for free if you just Google Super Chops by Howard Roberts and the PDF. So if you do want to try some of this yourself, you can, if I don't scare you off after showing you what it was. So again, when I got there, having more of a metal, blues, rock background, this was about 6 months into a year. So I had basic fingerings for jazz stuff, chords, but here's the class, Super Chops, from the curriculum. And basically what they were doing is they were just photocopying off sections of the book. So I'm going to go ahead and use the actual book on it. Now the first week of class, what you basically were supposed to do is record yourself playing a chord progression, which they had written out, and then the gist of the class was how to improvise over all these key changes. So then you were supposed to do 3 10-minute sets of playing over the recorded rhythm section. And the difficulty for me wasn't so much the playing over, even though you'd be in something like in this first section, you're in a B flat major, and then you switch to a E flat major, and you're supposed to do continuous eighth notes, and there's supposed to be a metronome going in the background along with your chords, and try and match it up with your chords. But because I was comfortable in scales and had been playing lead stuff a fair amount, that wasn't the hard part. This is the first week chord progression that they have. Let me hold it up closer on it. So no chord boxes. They had specific fingerings, as you can see the numbers right next to it, for the chords. So it wasn't just play any D minor 7, F minor 7, but the ones that they were showing on here. At least that's what I tried to do. The instructors didn't care if you wanted to just do any one you knew, and that would have been fine. But since I wasn't a big jazz guy, I figured I should use the fingerings that they're suggesting to get the most out of it. But let me just show you what that would amount to. So in this first one, now if you notice the brackets over top, that tells you the key changes. They basically move through on this one page 9 different keys with changes on average every 2 measures. So this first chord progression starts off on B flat major 7, and not bad fingering. That'd probably be one of the ones I did, either this one or this one. They're using this, so that's fairly easy. Now the next one's a D minor 7, so I think that'd be easy. You can go with this, but of course no, that'd be too easy. They use this fingering, but instead of hitting this open D note, they reach up for the fretted D note. So again, just making it hard on us. Then the next one's F minor 7, and same thing. I think you could do this, or you could do there's a lot of different F minors. What do? They basically do the same fingering as this, but just to make it harder, they add the extra A flat here too on top of it. So you get this fingering. And I'll actually show you the fingerings for his first few chords after I'm done playing them. The next one is a B flat 13 with a flat 9. So on this one, what they're doing is this, borrowing the first finger, and then so you get this type of sound. So these are the 4 fingerings you're doing, with the numbers underneath being which finger you're using. That's only the first line. There's 10 lines on this page, and again, this isn't even a chord study class. It's a improvising class. They're supposed to just spend 10 minutes recording this chord progression. Not being jazz guys, some of the jazz guys didn't have that much trouble with it. For me, I spent most of the first week just trying to figure out fingerings and remember the fingerings and be able to get from one to another. And then after that, I started simplifying some of the chords and just doing the improvising more than worrying about getting the exact chord progression. But let me give you a better idea of how this progresses then. And if you are going to download the PDF, I'd recommend get this book. It will help you through. If you're not super good at don't figure out all the notes on that, can't keep notes, they actually will have some of the fingerings from like this one from that we did, but some of the other ones, like for the F minor 7, this book has 16 different fingers for F minor 7. Doesn't have the one they show from the Super Chops thing. So, but anyways, that was Mel Bay's Encyclopedia of Guitar Chords. So you're supposed to do this 6 days a week was a practice session that they had marked on it. And it started off at a slow speed, 60 metronome. As you went through though, now you're always only supposed to do it as fast as you could do it cleanly, but your goal was 60 metronome on the first one. Then each week it went up. So by the 7th week, the first 6 you did different rhythm section each week. 7th one you went back and reviewed some of those, and you're supposed to be up to 132 metronome. And you're supposed to be doing steady 8th notes with no pause. And again, each improvising section is 10 minutes. And for example, they then gave examples of what the improvising might look like. And this was the example they gave for like that first one. Now, they said don't memorize this. It's just the type of thing you should be playing over it. Then this is a 20-week course if you go through a book. The class at Musicians Institute was only 1/4, if I remember right, so we didn't go through the whole book. After the first 7, the next 7 weeks, you're basically doing the same thing, but you're doing triplets, and the speed raises starting at 96 and up to 144 by the end. Not to mention the fact you're doing 1 more note per beat, doing triplets. Then the next 3 weeks, you combine 8th notes and triplets, and your metronome speed goes from 152 to 168 over those. In the last 3 weeks, you do hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides between all the notes, and you jump the metronome up to 176 to 192. If you're following what the course does. Now, to me, a way to actually get the value of this, even if you're not going to do that, is the continuous playing idea of playing with a continuous melody without any slides, vibratos, bends is a good way to get comfortable with your scales. If you don't know your scales that well or don't feel comfortable shifting between them, just playing, and you could put a slide in, like there I am, but just getting used to be able to move between them, and then at any point, if you want to switch to a different key or switch again to a different key, being able to do that is a good exercise. Anyways, I think we'll leave it at that. Hope you liked the video. See you guys next time.